You're watching Network Radio. Live from the Media Broadcasting Center.
And good evening, everybody. It looks like I got my buttons pushed here, and everything seems to be running pretty good. If I can get a hold of this bar and switch over here the screen. There we go. So welcome to another edition of Walking the Talk. I'm your host, Mark Russell. And of course, it's been another kind of fascinating week. Moves so quickly, it's unbelievable. It's been a busy week for me with the weekend. I got into another couple of churches and so forth in our community and connected with them, which was a lot of fun. And again, I'm still really enjoying connecting into the community, which I think is really our only remedy to what's going on out there. I wouldn't mind touching base just on a couple of little subjects here before I get into topic of the show tonight is carrying on. And with the events in Oregon last week and seeing the reaction from that and so forth, part of what I have tried to do this week is not getting too bogged down into it. I mean, look, there's got to be 10,000 people out there just reporting on the stories now, doing their own kind of just straight newscasts on the things and so forth. I don't need to be another one. I think much more of what I'll be concentrating on the show is moving forward with some actions that are going on and paying attention to some of the other events. Spending a few minutes at the start of the show just touching base on the main stories that I'm seeing and putting my little 2 cents worth of it. But I'm going to keep on carrying on about moving forward. With what I'm doing and some practical applications of it, and getting ready and being ready and making some needed adjustments. When it still comes down to it, it's the Lord that's going to resolve these things, and that's pretty well going to be it. And for me last week, seeing Levon just taken down like that, and the outcome of who remains there, but more importantly, the actual reaction out of everybody that I'm seeing. You're seeing a post, and it's a couple hundred replies on it, and every rhetoric slamming and slashing at people that you can imagine. It's definitely a huge divide. So if that was the intent of this, and as I mentioned on a couple of shows through the last couple of weeks, it really didn't matter what the Bundy's intent were, or who was an FBI plant or who wasn't. It was always my position of it's really irrelevant. If there's an opportunity here to stand up and go against the federal government with the Constitution, and for the people to stand up, you know what? If 10,000, 50,000 people would have shown up there in the first week, I don't think you would have seen the outcome that you did see in the first place. And I don't think you'd be able to sit back and just say, you know what, there's one or two FBI plants and provocateurs in this group of 12 guys or 20 guys, and this is all a psyop. I don't think that would have been the case, and that's an opportunity that was, in my opinion, absolutely lost, and um, we'll never know. So one of the things that I did see uh, coming out of the results of last week was a petition that was posted up by, I guess, this safety committee. Let's see if I can do a little uh, magnifying here and bring it up a little bit better. Um, so I guess the Sarnia County Safety Committee did draft up something for the legislature and submit it, calling for the removal of the FDI and for um, absolute support for the county. So let's see where that comes. I did notice that it had a few thousand shares and a couple thousand comments, and was going through those, and they were quite extensive. But they called for action by the end of Tuesday, the 2nd. So let's see what ends up happening out of this situation tomorrow, and see what actually ended up occurring by the end of today. The other one that I wanted to really touch base on was, since the opportunity doesn't happen there, and, I really do um, understand people's reluctance and the way that we are at so many different levels and different challenges through our everyday lives, and progression of the knowledge and progression of the truth out there, and how much of this spider web of absolute deceit, how far each of us are along that journey. So, I totally understand that, for people just to pick up things and call for violence and everything else, I don't think is the appropriate turn. And even when I started Canada the Nation a few years ago, it was always my contention right from the start that there is no solution ever in an actual armed conflict trying to resolve the matter by those means. It won't happen. It never has happened. All it does is put off another armed conflict until a little bit later on. So, at the end of the day, we have to come up with something different. And for myself, I put it right out there that, it has to be an absolute um, national strike. It has to be an absolute non-violent, non-participating agenda of non-compliance. And, that means no work, no this, no anything. The people take care of each other. Um, find essential services. People know what each other needs. The communities themselves, what the firefighters know, they got to respond to a fire. Uh, Proper constitutional sheriff's departments and the guys that are wearing a badge that are honorable know that they would take care of their community in the fashion that would be constitutional and be safe for the public. Uh, the same way with medical and anything that a community as a whole would need, the people would be able to provide that. But do you have to go to work? Does the government have to even move? Do you need to operate this system so that they just keep on going and they just keep on turning, and the public themselves keep on turning around into a mess that is such a web that they can't get out of it? Absolutely not. All debt is fraud in the first place. So what are you going to work for? Because you have no debt to pay off. It's all fraud. Um, it all has to be reset. So, there's a great amount of panic there, of the initial fear of doing something like that. That's totally unwarranted. Um, with a reset of the people into a system that needs to be addressed and implemented. So, and maybe that will um, be a foundational means of the people that have um, the better knowledge, or are in a stronger position to affect um, the changes on levels that need to be done, like the rise of the sheriffs that are acting within inside of the constitutional means. I can't see why people would now start having an issue with supporting them. And Sheriff Mack, I've had the opportunity, when Kevin was with the network, he had him on as a guest a few times, and I had the opportunity to speak with him. Um, there was a couple of things that we disagreed on, but that's also just fine. I found him always very well spoken, very sincere, and with nothing but the true intention of the people at his heart. And I have a great amount of respect for him, for those means. So I don't care about a couple of fine points that you disagree on. That's a matter of being human beings. The issue is the 90% that you do agree upon, and is that a means to move forward? And again, as Sheriff Mack and his organizations are trying, and has been going on for a while, this is maybe another opportunity that, as he's starting to bring other sheriffs into the fold, and more are standing up, you're going to see more and more of them stand up when the people are standing behind them. After all, you voted in your sheriff. I also found it always quite fascinating that the situation in Oregon is a whole state of affairs where, well, that wasn't the case anyway. You got some sheriff in there that is not elected, and not part of what's going on. So, how is this even tolerated? I mentioned it in a post at the start of the week. What is this? The Wild West in 1840s or something, where you've got some corrupt judge overseeing the county who appoints his own uh, uh, gunfighter, and runs roughshod over everything, and owns half of the county, and is going to start charging the people air tax or something. This is pathetic. Um, why is this guy even there? I don't understand. Where are the people of this county that they keep on saying, well, they don't want the Bundys there, they don't want this, they don't want that? But you've got some unelected appointed sheriff by some thing that calls himself a judge, and you're allowing this to happen. Um, so I think there's an awful lot of questions that have to be absolutely proposed to the people of the county. Um, but that's all up to them to sort out. It doesn't diminish the facts of, you've got good sheriffs that for years have been going on, trying to stand up, and they need the people behind them to do it. So, maybe this is another avenue to be able to shut down the tax system, to stop paying them, to stop working for a paycheck that's involved in the whole sin taxation at the source, and handing over your valuable consideration for your labor to a third party loan shark, extortionist, and renegotiate that, and shut these companies down that insist on doing it. And if they can't get somebody else to do the job, well, they're sure going to wake up in an awful hurry. They're going to start worrying about the public more than they are the IRS. This is fundamental to what's going on, just like it's fundamental that the sheriffs can't do their jobs if the people that voted them in aren't standing behind them. So if there's such an issue with patriots and everything else standing at the Oregon line or standing in the Pacific line, and I really see the tactical applications and the tactical reasoning behind what they're saying, and they make sense. I'm not saying they're wrong, but let's give them a different tactical advantage. If you're starting to see people from all different counties and all different states starting to network on the foundation of constitutional law done and run by the authority of the sheriffs that he's getting from the people, then why aren't the patriots turning around and contacting these sheriffs and so forth and say, you know what, you can stand up and you got more behind you than the 1 or 2 or 5 or 10, whatever size that sheriff department is, you got more boots on the ground behind you than just what you're seeing in your sworn deputy ranks. Maybe that will make a difference. Maybe that will actually start motivating the actual people behind them. And now when you start being able to see sheriffs being able to stand up to their own local media in their own local towns and their own local counties and say, look, you know what, this is our position within inside of constitutional law. This is what is lawful. This is what we're standing on. And we have the backup stick if in course is needed, then maybe in turn that also brings the people to be able to come out of their hiding places and out of their homes and gives them a little bit of a foundation that they're not alone or standing out in the middle of the street on their own and not having support from the people of authority, for lack of a better term, above them. So, this is something that could have the potential of snowballing and have a couple of different avenues to it. That's just kind of my take on it, and it's always been kind of my position that the nonviolent but direct disobedience and non-performance action has to take place because the government can't function without your performance. That's all there is to it. And I don't care how many people want to keep on complaining about wars and doing all the rest of it and so forth. Look in the mirror. You guys are the ones pulling the triggers. You're the ones sending your sons and daughters over there. You're the ones sending the funds to Israel. This circular reasoning has to stop with the individual. And as others have said, and I've said a couple of times, at the end of the day, this is a war about the hearts and minds of every individual that exists. Both in this man world, political game, society game, and in the spiritual realm. This is for the hearts and minds of every individual, and it has to start with us, and it has to start with every individual first, and not have just a reactionary mob mentality that something sounds good or looks good at the time. It's the only thing that's going to really affect change. And until a lot of those things start happening, I don't For myself, I just don't see uh, too much more point of doing another 500 stories on it and so forth, other than always reminding the input. And of course, that kind of led me to just checking onto this. You know, already just within the first primary, it's all squawking about fraud and the rest of it. Like how can Trump have 250,000 attendees through the state, and when it comes to the vote, he can't get 50,000? Like all through the last 2 weeks, everything is screaming about how many people he's bringing back into the political arena and the rest of it, and yet he's trumped on the voting, and like how could anybody look at this stuff anymore and actually justify themselves saying that this political game that's being played is anywhere justifiable at all? It's um, it's just beyond me. So that's kind of my 2 cents on the last uh, week's happenings, and kind of where I sit on it. For myself, I had a fairly not too bad of a week. Uh, we got into a bit where I got into the other. Let's switch over to the other screen here again. Um, One of my projects for this week was I tackled the downstairs bathroom. I showed a couple of weeks ago where I had gotten um, into the. Uh, sorry, just checking the screens here. Um, the upstairs one I did, so we turned around and I tackled the bottom one. As you can see, I kind of started off in the uh, whoever did the install before, everything was down on the original floor, and it was just a nightmare. It was sunk down 2.5 inches. Um, so I've turned around and I got things taken apart and out of there, and basically got you can see how far everything was down. Built up the flange, got some new bolts into it, and then used a quick mortaring um, application on things. Kind of did a little form around the flange just with some cardboard. Um, got that squared away. Um, got the new toilet around and um, got it assembled and so forth. And then everything into place, and it actually worked the first time. And so a good little uh, project done again. So now with these two um, functionings completed, it has brought our usage of water through the toilet system, through the bathroom um, avenue into waste down by 2/3. Just by switching these toilets out and making things functionable, and we're quite pleased. That's going to be especially through our summer months where um, your well levels and so forth are a little bit more concerned depending on our overall rainfall, and that this makes an absolute huge difference, cutting down by 2/3 just in normal use. And now, of course, you can limit your flushing. You can even cut down that water usage even more when you desire or when you need to. So that was uh, one of the segments I've got out. And then this week as well, I got into um, hooking up the alternative power. So um, got a newer generator so that we're not fighting with fixing things and breakdowns and so forth, hopefully. Um, but we did an awful lot of check. This is a Cube one out of TSC. Ratings were really good on this. It had both a 30 and a 50 amp pull, as well as 4 output plugs and the electric start and everything else, which was quite a concern because of if I'm not around or something happens with me and so forth. Karen has to be able to function, or anybody else has to be able to function where the house can have its power supply and heat stays on and water pumps and so forth, especially through the winter months. This makes it easier on her to operate and so forth. So it's all consideration and just some planning ahead. So we basically switched right over into another full panel, took off the kind of jury rigging they had there. I really liked this application of things because, of course, across the top there you have the box feed into there. We removed 12 circuits because of with this generator I'm able to hold up to 12. So that just worked awesome. Gave me more than enough feeds on things. So out of it, basically, it's a straight over, cross those circuits over into the sub panel. Generator feeds into that. Everything runs on the two panels when the grid is on. The grid goes down. Then all I'm doing is turning off the main panel, starting the generator or let her warm up, and then with the main panel turned off of this panel, um, generator goes on at the top right, and that supplies my power to my 12 circuits. Um, excuse me. So it ended up just being an awesome little thing. I simply just chose out my priority circuits through what was going on. Double tested everything, and then we tested everything with the power back on. Then tripped the power off, hooked the generator, and switched everything back on, and just kind of ran things back up. So, just our main things with the freezers for the food supplies, the water pump, the furnace, which needs, of course, we're on the wood, outdoor wood furnace. So the furnace is actually a combining of two, where we're just running a fan over the radiator that circulates the hot water over it. So that's the actual fuel source for this. So all we needed was a normal plug to be able to run the fan on a furnace stack. So that's what runs our furnace, is just a small circulating pump and um, the water circulation. So we didn't have to have a hot water tank through that, because I'm not worried about hot water in the first place through the summer or so forth. If power's gone, I'm not worried about a shower at that particular time. And all through the winter, we have hot water just by the outdoor furnace anyway, so we don't require power for it. So that works out perfect. Ran a couple of fridges that we have for the food storage as well. A couple of main set of lights around, a bathroom's light, and then some office plugs. So basically, with going to this little bit of a better generator and a little bit of a better full panel, um, it comes down to I pretty well got uh, well, all of the necessities was very easily put on. And then as far as the rest of it goes, I'm probably at about 70% of normal use opposed to having full on-grid power. So, and of course, like I did mention, my biggest thought out of this, that button doesn't want to move for me. Sorry about that. My biggest thing out of this was I just feel so much better that if I'm stuck in the snow or I'm out somewhere else or I'm on dealing with other things, and Karen's on her own here and so forth, and she loses power and so forth. It's a simple toggle of a switch and a push of a button to start the generator, and the house has got its needs met with keeping it warm, keeping the power going, keeping the food storage proper, and a little bit of comfort for her as far as having a few lights around. But most important, of course, just the heat. So I actually just have an awful lot of peace of mind with that, and it was, for my standing of things, it was well worth the bit of effort and learning and figuring things out, and really wasn't that bad, and had an electrician do the main hookup parts, so it was all good and all bonus. Um, so that was kind of my week of things, and now it's carrying on with the next projects. One of them is I'm starting to do all of the costing and the research, and I'll be probably at the end of March or so forth completed with that on setting up a heated greenhouse and that type of organic food supply, and doing an aquaponics and kind of a fish harvesting, fish farming application with it as well. I was kind of interested, just as a little side note, you're starting to see um, the posts coming out on how that food supply now is no good for you, and of course. Articles are very misleading between the difference between commercial fish farming and what they're doing with the GMO salmon and all of the rest of that kind of um, fish farming, food supply harvesting, and an individual uh, person who's now harvesting and selling and so forth. The different food supplies, and so many people are actually starting to get into it, that they're starting to supply their local restaurants and so forth, and they're not part of the big main food chain. So you're actually seeing the backlash because obviously it's starting to have some kind of an effect on them, and you're starting to see that kind of disinformation coming out. So I found that kind of a little bit interesting. So that's one thing to just kind of keep your eye out on. So a lot of study and a lot of putting that together, and there's another there's a new kind of crowdfunding platform that I've got involved in. It's not the GoFundMe type of things and so forth, where they take such a chunk out of you and they work under that whole system. This is much more of a self-creating, activated thing where a lot of people start. Not only outside individuals can just simply donate to that person, but it's about actually getting other people involved in it. And then there's that kind of gifting levels and opening up of different avenues that allow people to fund their passions while they help other people and do their own. Um, so that's another thing that I'm forming up this coming week, and I'm hoping to roll that out within the next 2 weeks. It'll be both up on the NBC site, and I'll be doing more of a clear show on that. Um, and I'm going to start launching that and really progress with the next stages of the property and uh, keep carrying on. And I think that's the one of the biggest things that we can do for each other is don't get caught up 100% into um, all the activities we're seeing, no matter which topic it is, whether it's the sheriffs and the lawful side of things, whether it's the economy side of things. Um, if we get baited into this side of it and we get so bogged down into listening to 600 YouTubes and 500 other people and so forth on every single thing, we're going to stop progressing and stop doing some of the actual practical applications of things we have to do on a daily basis so that we're prepared and that we're ready and that we've actually taken some action for ourselves, our families, and our communities. And if that's where it's going to affect a change. And the bottom line is, if we don't have that, then you're going to be fighting with every neighbor. You're going to be fighting with every community member, and everybody within 25 miles around you is going to be knocking at your door. Um, we have to reach out and we have to start networking it, and we got to start getting our communities coming back together and supporting each other. It's what's going to count. And at the end of the day, these people that want to keep going about every individual topic aren't going to be there for you when you're out of food and you're going to a supermarket and it's empty and you don't have the backup prescriptions. I don't think you're going to be able to text them on Facebook and have supplies sent to you by them. So I would actually keep some of this in mind and try to take stock of some real practical side of things. And I think that's one of the better things to be able to put yourself in a tangible position to help on the bigger level as well. If you've got your home taken care of and you're somewhat prepared and you've got your mind and heart in the right place, you're able to help support others more. That keeps on carrying it on. So that's my 2 cents. And as always, try to be a little better tomorrow than we are today is always a great start for everything. God bless, and we will see you next week.